Horseshoes and the History of Blacksmithing in San Diego. Presentation by Allison Scoda. Introduction. Horseshoes have been an integral invention since the beginning of horsemanship. They have allowed drastic advances in agriculture and travel, ultimately leading to the intricate global system of commerce that we enjoy today. A horseshoe is a traditionally crescent-shaped piece of metal that is attached to the bottom of a horse's hoof to protect the hoof from wear. Many different models of horseshoes have existed throughout history that differ in form and function, from light aluminum models on racehorses to spiked models for use in icy conditions. Early models of the horseshoe. The horseshoe has been around for thousands of years. It is estimated that the need for a form of hoof care and protection was first realized as early as 400 BC. Roman models known as hippo sandals were used to protect the feet of their horses against rough terrain or extended travel, while wraps for hooves made of medicinal plants were used in early Asia. The development and use of horseshoes has led to changes in travel, agriculture, and even social classes. The manufacture of horseshoes allowed a new artisan class to emerge. Farriers and blacksmiths were integral to the production and sale of this precious commodity. This led to the development of metallurgy. The rich history of the horseshoe, as well as the vast and intricate effects on nearly every aspect of human commerce and social relations throughout the past 2,000 years, solidifies the horseshoe as a historical object. Top right image illustrates a horseshoe. Roman hippo sandals first emerged around the 1st century. They were made of iron and attached to the hoof by clamps or leather straps. Many models also had forms of tread, as can be seen from the artifact at the bottom left, courtesy of the British Museum. While the exact date of the invention of the first nailed horseshoe is unknown, the Worshipful Company of Farriers states that the custom of burying the horse with its master is very old, and horseshoes found in ancient graves have shown that the Celts were probably the first people to protect the feet of their horses with nailed-on shoes. The practice then gradually spread through Germany, Gaul, and to Britain. Horseshoes became more widespread around 1000 AD in Europe. These early models are generally thought to have been made of bronze, and have a scalloped rim with 6 nail holes. These scalloped edges were likely made from double punching nail holes. The exact date of the first iron horseshoe is unknown, as iron horseshoes and nails were often melted down to reuse the precious metal. Horseshoes were such a precious commodity that they were even accepted as payment for taxes during the Crusades. By the 13th century, iron shoes were forged in large quantities and could be bought ready-made. Hot shoeing, the process of shaping a heated horseshoe immediately before placing it on the horse, became common in the 16th century. Blacksmithing became a prized trade that contributed to the development of metallurgy. The Industrial Revolution brought about great advances in technology, one of which was the first horseshoe machine. Patented in 1835 by Henry Burton, this new horseshoe machine was eventually capable of producing up to 3,600 horseshoes an hour. This level of production was made possible by the rotary concentric squeezer that produced hot iron bars that could be shaped into horseshoes. Burton Iron Works had an output of 50 million horseshoes a year. This was an invaluable asset to the Union Army during the Civil War. Troy Records states that most actions of the military's cavalry raids were made possible by the large quantity of the machine-made horse and mule shoes provided by Burton's factory. Modern horseshoes are the product of thousands of years of human ingenuity. On the image on the right, you can see a regular or keg shoe, top left, that is used for moderate riding and supports a normal hoof. Next to it, on the right, you can see a rim shoe that has a deep fuller that allows for more traction. These shoes are commonly used for sport riding, such as barrel racing and roping. On the lower right is a bar shoe. Added bar for extra support. This is used commonly for injuries or abnormal hooves. Lower middle shows a heart bar, like the bar shoe, but adds additional frog support. This is commonly used for laminitis. Finally, on the lower right is the egg bar shoe. This is a bar shoe with added support that is used for navicular disease. Most modern horseshoes are made from either steel or aluminum. Steel is sturdier, but heavier. It is used commonly for working horses and more generalized riding activities. Aluminum, however, is lighter and allows for faster runs and quicker turns. Thus, it is preferred by racehorses and show horses. The image on the right, courtesy of Matt McMillan, PhD, illustrates the different models of horseshoes throughout history, starting with ancient grass sandals, to primitive leather socks, to the iron hippo sandal, to primitive shoes fastened without nails, finally, to primitive shoes fastened with nails, medieval shoes, early machine-made shoes, and contemporary machine-made shoes. The anatomy of the horseshoe. Parts of a horseshoe include the branches, the foot, the margin, the fuller, and the heel. The branches are the curved sides of the shoe, while the wider, flat section of a branch is called the foot or ground surface. Margins are the edges of the shoe and are where the indented channel containing nail holes, called the fuller, is located. At the open end of each branch is the heel. If the heel is thicker and turned down, it is considered a calcan, or calc. The tab, when found at the junction of the branches, is called a toe clip. Useful measurements to take are length, taken toe to midpoint between heels, width, taken at the widest point of the branches, the web, the width of the branch, and weight. Manufacturing process. The traditional method of forging iron horseshoes has been preserved and is still in practice today, despite modern horseshoes being predominantly machine-made. This process generally consists of 5 steps: cutting, bending, forging, finishing operations, and packaging. First, an iron bar is measured and cut with shear blades. The bar is placed into the forge and heated until malleable, around 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. The bar is then bent into the desired shape. The bar is reheated and worked until the desired form is reached. It is then plunged into a container of quenching liquid, either water or oil. The shoe is then grinded smooth. Finishing touches are added and the shoe may be polished. The shoe is then either cooled and packaged for sale or may be applied to a horse's hoof while hot. This is a process known as hot shoeing. Inside a blacksmith's workshop, you will most likely find a hammer, a forge to heat metal, bellows to blow oxygen into the forge, an anvil, tongs to manipulate metal and move hot pieces, a chisel to shave off bits of metal, create different shapes, or clean up edges, a vise to hold pieces in place, swages or fuller to make grooves in metal, punches to make holes, drifts to shape holes, bits to bore holes, molds, and nails. The history of farriers and blacksmiths. Iron was formerly known as black metal, hence the name blacksmiths and not ironsmiths. Farriers were named after the Latin word for iron, ferrum. While historically farriers and blacksmiths may have worked interchangeably, there are very different practices today. Farriers are always in charge of shoeing the hoofed animals, while the shoes may be made by a different blacksmith. Farriery is defined in the Farriers Registration Act of 1975 as any work in connection with the preparation or treatment of the foot of a horse for the immediate reception of a shoe thereon. the fitting by nailing or otherwise of a shoe to the foot, or the finishing off of such work to the foot. However, a farrier may participate in the craft of blacksmithing in order to make horseshoes and tools associated with the animal husbandry that centralizes around the main craft. The Worshipful Company of Farriers was one of the first guilds in London, established in 1356 to manage those involved with the craft of farriery and to uphold the welfare of the horse through good practice, which it continues to do in the 21st century. The company demonstrates the respect and established social class of farriers that originated due to the importance of horseshoes. The status of farrier and blacksmith were largely owed to the high demand of horseshoes. Identifying horseshoe nails can be extremely useful when identifying horseshoes. The length, form, and function of a nail can offer useful clues as to what the horseshoe was used for and when it was made. The top right of this slide illustrates the well-known importance of the horseshoe nail through a medieval English proverb, while the image on the middle left illustrates the different kinds of horseshoe nails, as well as the anatomy of a horseshoe. Identifying the form and function of a horseshoe can be useful for dating. A chart of popular types provided by Ivan G. Sparks in Shire Album 19, pictured left, is useful in identifying the general forms of horseshoes from the 9th century to the 20th century. It is important to note that the types of shoes will also vary based on geographical location, as well as preference for machine-made or artisan-produced. For example, the invention of the horseshoe machine in the US versus the preference for traditional artisan-made shoes in the UK. Considering on the right, you can see a 9th century wavy rim shoe. This is one of the earliest attested nailed horseshoes. Horseshoes from this period to about the 15th century are difficult to date. Materials are subject to intense wear, and models do not vary much within centuries. However, differences in technique and style, as well as accompanying nails or surrounding artifacts, can aid in dating. On the bottom left, you can see 3 different horseshoes from the 11th to the 16th century. Note the small differences, such as the scalloped edging and slight differences in weight. One of the earliest nailed horseshoes was the wavy or scalloped rim. These were observable from about the 9th to the 14th century. The wavy rim was a result of the production technique in which 3 large oval depressions were punched 2/3 of the way through the iron bar, and then circular holes for the nails were punched through the depressions. This was due to the lack of the fullering technique, and so they pressed it thin in order to get the nail holes through. Although forms do not really differentiate between centuries, there is slight differences between the early period, the 8th to the 11th century, and the later period, 11th to the 14th century. Early period shoes had more pronounced wavy rim, 6 nail holes, length roughly equal to width, a weight of about 3.5 to 5 ounces, wide open heels that taper, and used fiddle-headed nails, while the later period had a less pronounced wave, about 7 to 8 nails that were rectangular in shape, used T-shape square-sectioned nails, longer length than width, and the heels became more drawn together while the branches got longer. During the later period of the wavy or scalloped shoe, the Guildhall and Dove shoes emerged. They are recognizable by their thicker and flatter appearance, as well as the occasional tapering point at the connection of the branches. Characteristics of the Guildhall shoe include a round outer edge and an arched inner edge. The width of the web can be up to 2 inches. Long branches with the heels tilted inwards. No calkins on later draft shoes. Saddle shoe may have 1 calkin. They also had square nail holes, and draft shoe may be 5 times 4.5 inches and up to 12 to 18 ounces in weight, while the smaller saddle shoe may be 4.5 by 4.5 and 5 to 7 ounces. It is important to note that dove shoes are similar to Guildhall shoes, yet smaller and lighter for the saddle horse. Guildhall shoes were keyhole and tongue shoes. As time goes on, horseshoes increase in weight to offer more protection, and therefore need more nail holes for a better bond to the hoof. Fullering appears in models circa the 17th century. Keyhole shoes are used for draft horses, while its contemporary, the tongue shoe, was used for riding horses. Characteristics of keyhole shoes are a keyhole-shaped internal edge. Shoes prior to 1700 are fullered only between the nail holes, while shoes post 1700 have a continuous groove. The number of nail holes increases from 4 to 10 to up to 20 on heavier models of the later period. Square section T-headed nails in early models, and spiked nails in later models. Size varied between 4 and 7/8 inches times 4 3/4 inches, and 5 7/8 inches by 5 3/4 inches. Weight could be anywhere between 10 to 40 ounces. The horseshoes were primarily manufactured for draft horses. Characteristics of tongue shoes included a U shape of internal edge, fullered on later models, 8 to 10 nail holes, tapered calkins, wide apart heels, size anywhere from 4.75 by 4.5 to 5 by 4.75. Weight anywhere from 6 to 14 ounces, but may go up to 19 for draft models. Toe clip and rim shoes. Toe clips were introduced between 1825 and 1830 to reduce strain on the nails and properly secure the shoe. Bar toe clips were used on draft shoes from 1880 to 1930. Side clips were used since the 1840s. Stamped shoes were introduced in 1864 by George Fleming, who stated that fullering the shoe was unnecessary. The image to the right illustrates the rising appearance of stamped horseshoes over fullered in modern horseshoes. After the invention of the horseshoe machine in 1835, horseshoe models became more uniform, and the general form of these horseshoes remains observable today. Proper dating and understanding of horseshoes is important to understand the time period in which they were created, as well as the people who left them behind. For example, understanding the difference between a shoe for a draft horse and a shoe for a lighter riding horse can help archaeologists determine what the horses were used for. The appearance of draft horseshoes may indicate the need for a load-bearing animal for agricultural purposes or pulling heavy loads for groups that travel frequently, whereas the appearance of a lighter horseshoe could indicate a need for fast individual travel, such as law enforcement, combat, or carrying messages or mail. Additional aspects of horseshoes can even indicate the terrain or weather, such as extra tread or spikes to better grip in icy conditions. Large amounts of disposed horseshoes can even indicate military use or other large-scale horseback operations such as mail delivery. Horseshoes in San Diego. Horsemanship has been integral to the development of San Diego due to the town's unique military, commercial, and mail history. The Black Hawk Smithy in Old Town San Diego stands as a renovated tribute to the original livery stable and blacksmith in the 1860s. On the top left and the top right, you can see veterinary correction shoes on display at the Sealy Museum in Old Town Historic Park. Whereas mail and freighting were one of the many uses for horses in San Diego. Horses making the grueling journey to deliver mail, haul cargo, and complete military operations contributed to an ever-increasing need for the hoof protection offered by horseshoes. The two images on the top right show one of the Wells Fargo mail carriages and the routes that some of these mail carriers took. Blackhawk blacksmithing. On the right, you can see a farrier's anvil with a horseshoe shaping horn. Middle right is a blacksmith demonstrating the shaping of an iron bar. Middle left, a professional blacksmith at Blackhawk Smithy demonstrates a punch used to make holes in the horseshoes. Left, a draft shoe with a toe clip from Oregon on display at the smithy.